Hello everybody and welcome to IELTS Live Thursdays now. And today I want to look at reading. The reason is because a lot of people recently have been asking me questions about reading, and I haven't done reading or talked about reading for a little while, so I thought it might be a good idea to address it. And the thing that a lot of people talk about or ask questions about with reading is the timing. Most people tell me they have a problem with the timing. However, what I want to say is that actually the problem is rarely the timing. The reason being, if you can do the reading well and you can answer most of the questions and get most of them correct, then the timing will not be an issue. So if you're struggling with the timing, I think it's not a problem of timing. It's probably a problem of technique or strategy, or simply that your English is not good enough yet to reach a band 7 or 8 in reading within 1 hour. And so the is to forget about the time and go back to just working out the answers. It's just amazing how many students I speak to and work with who in the initial stages are just putting the clock on and timing themselves, and yet when we look at the questions they have no idea how to find the answer. So if you're in that position and you really don't know how to go about finding the answer, then you're never going to be able to manage it in the time. So my advice to everybody, if you're struggling with this and struggling with the time and not getting a high score, is number one, forget the time. Take your time, do the questions and just see how many you can get correct, and just work on getting the right answers. And then as soon as you're getting most of them correct, then you can start to think about the time. And in my experience, and remember I've been teaching IELTS for over 25 years, in my experience, once students can get a high score in the correct answers, so what I mean by that is if they do the reading test and they can get 35 plus, the timing will never be an issue. So the fact of the matter is what you need to focus is on getting the right answers, because you get points in IELTS for getting the correct answer. You don't get points for how quickly you can accomplish it. So that's the first thing. If you're struggling with the timing and you're not completing and you're getting a lot of mistakes and most of the answers are not coming out right, then don't time. Go back to the questions and just focus on getting the questions correct. So what I want to do today is just very quickly go through the process of reading. Now, this is the process I use. It's the process I teach all my students. It's the process we use in IELTS Champions Club, and it works. And typically the students that use this kind of process will, with practice, be getting 35, 36, sometimes all of them correct. And I've had a lot of students who have got band 9 in their reading, and they will be able to do it in about 50 to 55 minutes. Okay, so first of all, I just want to rush through the question types, because understanding this will help you to know how to approach them. So there are some questions which we call global questions, and these test your overall understanding of the text, perhaps in its entirety, so a kind of heading question, or of a particular paragraph. So questions are typically headings. To get a heading correct, you need to understand the paragraph. What is it telling you? Summaries also, you information in a paragraph. You need to understand what's contained in that paragraph. So all of these, classification is where you have to say, is it yes, is it no, is it neither yes nor no, you know, that kind of thing. It's usually not yes or no. Is it A, is it B, is it A and B? These kinds of questions need a global understanding of either a section of the text or the whole text. And you cannot do it by just using 2 or 3 words. And the other type of questions are more specific, and these test detail, and you have to read the sentence much more carefully. So things like sentence completion, where you're looking for specific words, true, false, not given, yes, no, not given, short answers, where again you're looking for specific words, and you deal with them differently. Matching beginnings and endings of sentences and multiple choice. And you do them differently. The global questions need you to do more skimming, and the more specific questions need you to do more scanning. So it's important, A, to understand the difference between skimming and scanning, and it's also important to understand when you need to skim and when you need to scan. So that's something that will really help you with your reading if you can do this and if you know when to do it. Okay, let's look at the process. So you sit down, the reading's in front of you. Look at the title. Now, in the past, some of the readings had titles that were a little bit strange or a little bit obscure. Nowadays, I find the titles are quite clear. So you can get the overview of the topic from the title. If there's a subheading or a subtitle, you should read that. If there is no title, then chances are you're going to get a question about giving it a title. So in that case, then you can skim the first paragraph to get the gist of the text. But I wouldn't do anything more than that at the beginning of the process, because it's a waste of time. If you're one of those people that goes through, underlines words, highlights sentences, does all kinds of other strange and wonderful reading gymnastics, stop it now, because it's wasting time. Until you know exactly what you have to find in the text, you can't second guess. So the thing to do, read the subheading, read the subheading, read the first paragraph if there is no heading, and then go straight to the question. Okay, sometimes people skim the passage. I don't do this anymore, but I think that is a waste of time. So although I've got it there, to be honest, I think I would actually cross that one out and not do it anymore. It used to be quite useful in the past, but I don't think it is now. But you have to do this really quickly, because what's important in the reading is to get to the questions. Okay, start with question 1. Don't jump around and say, I'm leaving headings till last. Leaving headings till last is a big mistake, because headings will give you an overview of the whole passage, and it will help you to get the other questions far more quickly. So if you're leaving headings to the end, your reading process is not right. There's a problem with your reading process. Okay. So focus on the question. Read every bit of the question, every single word, because that's where you'll find the answer in the way that the question has been written. Carefully read it. Choose keywords. I would say 3 or 4 you need. Unlike listening, where you should only have 1 keyword, because otherwise it's confusing, with reading you need 3 or 4. And then you need to go backwards and forwards from the text. So this means you need a lot of practice to be able to do this quickly. So you look at the question, you say, okay, what do I need to do here? What do I need to find? Go to the text, use the keywords, find the place. Work out what you think is the answer, then go back and check, right, is that what the question requires me to give it? And if it's clear, fine. If not, go back. But don't do this too often. If you're starting to get a bit panicky or you can't find it, then just let it go. Right, let's have a little bit of talk about keywords. So you absolutely need these. I know some people say, oh, you don't need keywords, but honestly, I'm a native speaker. I have a degree in English. I've been teaching since 1977. I've been teaching IELTS for 25 years. I love reading, and yet I don't think I could do the reading without keywords. So if you're saying I don't need keywords, then I wonder what your process is like. I think these are really vital for the speed and the accuracy. And whenever a student, in my experience, makes a mistake, especially with a specific type of question like yes, no, not given, the reason will be they have missed a word. So don't say they're not important. Personally, I think they're vital. The more you have, the easier it will be to find. Let's say you have a topic on the environment and you pick a keyword environment. Environment is going to be all over that reading. So how will you know which is the exact place? You will only know if you have other keywords that are associated with it. So for example, you might have a keyword in the past, the environment in the past. That narrows it down. You might have the environment in the past in Europe. Again, that narrows it down. So the more keywords you have, the easier it will be to actually find the right place. Okay, two kinds of keyword. One will find you the location and the others will find the exact answer. So for example, if we go back to this environment example, if it said the environment in the past in Europe, you found the place through those words. So those help you get the location. But then they might have asked you something about most people. Now that word most is really important to answer the question, because when you get to the place, is it most people? Or is it just one or two people? So these are the kinds of questions that should be going around in your head as you're looking for the answer. Okay, here's an example of using keywords. So this is from a passage about crisp packets. So we can see here, these are true, false, not given questions because they're a good example of using keywords. And I'm just going to have a look at maybe the first three today. So I've done them in different colors. The orange ones are the location. So how you can find the right location, because crisp packets is an unusual kind of thing. City councils here is a little bit unusual, and here is a name. So these location keywords are usually quite easy to find. Here we've got a number. Numbers are brilliant. Dates are brilliant. You can find them quite easily. So, and the other ones are the words that I think are going to help me find the exact answer. So here we've got inexpensive. So what I need to know if these shelters are inexpensive, and I need to know if it's possible to make these shelters. So crisp packets can make inexpensive temporary shelters. So what I want to know is, can inexpensive or cheap temporary shelters be made from crisp packets? Okay, now if I move on, let's see if we can find that. So we've got crisp packets here. All right. And we need something about shelters. And here are crisp packets again. So you see there's a lot of crisp packets. Here I've got shelters. So now I think it must be around here. So always go to the beginning of the sentence. Don't start in the middle of a sentence. You won't get the whole idea. Crisp packets, he says, are the perfect material with which to make light, cheap, that's the word we want, weatherproof shelters. Okay, so if we go back, crisp packets can make inexpensive temporary shelters. Did it tell us anything about temporary? Light, cheap, weatherproof shelters. Okay, I'm not sure about temporary, but it looks like it probably is right. And then I can see here there is a word temporary. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, but you know, that's not in the right place. This is reading. You know, there is no right or wrong. So by looking and being a little bit more curious, we can see that the answer is yes. Right, let's have a look at this second one. City councils have difficulty disposing of crisp packets. So we've got crisp packets here and we've got city councils. So we need a connection between city councils and crisp packets. And once we make that connection, we want to know whether it's hard for them to dispose of, get rid of crisp packets. So is it difficult for city councils to get rid of crisp packets? Making a question with yes, no, not given helps a lot, because then you can say yes or no, or I don't know. Okay, so whoops, sorry, wrong way. Let's go back. So anything city councils, that's what we're looking for. Now, I would not do this rule that a lot of people have of just going on. I would always look back, because you never know. And I don't think that it's always chronological is actually true. Right, I can't see anything in that first column about city councils. Okay, that's about him. That's about how he makes the shelters. That's about some negotiation with a company. That's about him. Yeah, I can't see anything about city councils. So it does say here they're difficult to recycle, but it doesn't mention anything about city councils. So I would be inclined to say that there's no information. We know they're difficult to recycle, but we don't know whether that causes a problem. It probably does. It probably does cause a problem for city councils, but we're not told directly. Right, I'm just going to look at the third one here, which is Jack Woolley. Easy to find, it's a name. And then we want to know if he works as an architect. Now, a couple of things to see here. An architect. Notice works is in the present tense, which means currently. So is he working now? So if the information tells us about something in the past, it's not relevant. If it tells us about something in the future, again, it will affect the answer. So what we want to know is, what is he doing now? So let's find, whoops, sorry, keep going the wrong way. Let's find Jack Woolley. Okay, so we've got Jack Woolley here. Right, but there's nothing about his job. Okay, here we are. So he's a London-based industrial designer. Now, that suggests he's doing that now. He has a portfolio of work. Does it say anything about architecture? Ah, okay, here we go. There is something. He is studying, that present continuous means at the moment, architecture. So what do we know? We know that he is studying architecture at the moment. But the question says he works as an architect, and that does not seem to be the case, because if he's studying architecture, presumably he's not qualified yet. So the answer there then is no, because he is studying but not working. Okay, we've still got time, so let me do the others. So here, now we need to find crisp packets, old pipes, scraps. And we need a place where these are all mentioned together, which is why I said you need 3 or 4 keywords. So if we remember, crisp packets is everywhere. But if we have crisp packets, old pipes and scraps together, that would be the right place to find out whether the old pipes and scraps are used to join the crisp packets. So are the crisp packets joined together with old pipes and other scraps? Yes, no, or we don't know. That's what we're looking for. Okay. So let's have a look at crisp packets again. So we know this is all about the shelters. This is about his study. So it must be somewhere we haven't looked yet. Okay. Right, we've got joined together here. And them refers to crisps or crisp packets. Slit them open, clean them, set about experimenting. Okay, so now he's joining them together. Larger sheets. Was that mentioned in the question? Nope, it wasn't, but it is relevant. And they are held up using poles made from plumbing scraps. Now, plumbing is putting water pipes and heating pipes and air conditioning pipes into a house or a building. So anything that's to do with plumbing is to do with pipes and metal. So let's see if that helps with the question. Yeah, so we've got pipes and other scraps. So anything plumbing will be pipes, screws, nails, pieces of metal. So it looks like this is right. So I'm happy to say yes. And then here we need to find this number, 600 packets of crisps. And what we need to know is, can 600 packets of crisps be consumed by one pupil, so one child of school age, in 1 year? So both of those pieces of information are important. It has to be one child, it has to be in 1 year. So can one pupil consume 600 packets of crisps in 1 year? So let's see if we can find 600. Easy. It jumps straight out at you. Right, so let's go back, as I mentioned, to the beginning of the sentence. He took a wheelbarrow out around King's Cross and collected 600 discarded crisp packets. And then in brackets, the amount, he says, represents 1 year's crisps consumption by a single school-age child. Right, pupils are always school age. If you talk about a pupil, you know they are at school. They are not at university or college, they are at school. So that's correct. 1 year is mentioned, so that's correct. And 600 packets can be consumed by that school-age child. So therefore, the answer is yes, that is true. Okay, and then the next one. Here again, look at the location, a crisp manufacturer. And again, we've got Jack Woolley. So there must be a connection between Jack Woolley and the manufacturer of crisps. And let's see what else we need to find out. Is collaborating. So that's some kind of ongoing collaboration, working together in the work of Jack Woolley. So are Jack Woolley and this crisp manufacturer collaborating to create these shelters? And notice this is present continuous, so that tells us it's happening right at this moment. So let's see if that is true. So we had something about work here, so we've got exactly the right words. A major crisp manufacturer. So what is happening? Woolley, and there's Jack Woolley, is currently, at the moment, in talks with a major crisp manufacturer about developing the design further and establishing an infrastructure for gathering up the discarded packets. Okay, so what we know is that they are talking about the possibility of this. So it seems as though this collaboration is not actually happening at the moment. They are talking about possibly doing this, but they are not actually collaborating. So are we talking no, or are we talking not given? Because this is, I think, where a lot of people get a bit stuck. The information is there very clearly. And it does tell us that they are not collaborating. they are talking. So if we make this negative, a major crisp manufacturer is not collaborating in the work of Jack Woolley, I think that would be correct. So therefore, I'm inclined to say it's no rather than not given, because it's not happening yet. Okay, and the last one, we need crisp packets on the streets. So we need something that describes crisp packets on the streets. And we need to know if people are worried about that or not. So be very careful where you have a negative. So this says people are happy to see them on the street. So if you have one of these negative yes, no, not given questions, it's quite useful if you can make it positive to find the answer and then put the negative back in before you make your decision. So let's go back. What do people feel about crisp packets on the streets? So we've got that right at the beginning. So that thing about never going back is immediately not the case. So discarded crisp packets are the blight. That means a blight is something really horrible, ugly, a problem of every high street. They take ages to degrade unless you use okay. Anything about what people feel. Here we have this causing a litter problem, but could be converted okay. And now we're talking about hot climates, and now we're talking about him. So it seems to me that there's nothing about how people feel. So there's a blight, they make a mess of the street, but there's nothing really about how people feel. Nobody's been asked about it. So the general feeling is it's dirty and horrid, but there's nothing specific about people being asked. So I think I'm going to go not given. Okay. Right, let me move on. So that's just an example of how you can use these quick techniques with yes, no, not given. I mean, each question has a slightly different strategy. And if you look in the media section in the group, you'll find I've done headings, I've done MCQ, I've done summaries. But I want to just reiterate that doing this you don't need to time it. You need to firstly know how to do it well. And once you can do it well and you've practiced, then generally the timing will not be a problem. But if you still find yourself taking longer, then you need to think about the time. In order to time it, you have to be disciplined about 1 minute per question. If you spent a minute on a question and you can't find it, don't worry. Go on to the next question. So if I go back here, if I didn't find it, what I would do is to kind of make some sort of note. Now, I know if you're doing the computer test, it's a bit different, but you can always change your mind. So you just need to have some kind of note somewhere. So if I thought I wasn't sure about this one, I might make a little mark, move on, and then come back. Now, you have got plenty of time to come back. So you can come back at the end of those yes, no, not given questions. If you still can't find it, because often you'll find the answer as you're looking for another answer. And that's why it is really silly to spend too long on one question, because these answers will pop up as you're looking for others. So if you can't find it after you finish that section, you can have another quick look when you finish that passage. So let's say, yeah, it's a summary question in the first passage. So when you've finished all the words in the summary, have another quick look. If you can't find it, leave it and have a look when you finish passage 1. If you still can't find it, don't worry, because if you work quickly and keep moving, you should have 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the test to look for those really tricky questions that you can't find. And this really does work. you mustn't worry about leaving a question. I think that's often the problem. People are very reluctant to leave a question and come back, and you have to force yourself to do it, because the problem with sticking with a question is you start to panic more and more and more, and the more you panic, the less likely you are to find that answer. And the example I always give for this is when you need to go somewhere and you can't find your car keys, and you put them down but you can't find them, and you're late and you're hurrying and you're worrying about getting somewhere and you cannot find your keys, and you run around like a headless chicken looking for your keys everywhere, and then somebody will say to you, they're just there on the table. And you think, how did I not see them? I've looked there so many times and I didn't see it. Now, I'm sure you've had this experience, all of you, and that is the same experience you have in the reading. If you don't leave a question, it gets harder and harder to find it. Okay, so don't worry about it. If you do this systematically, if you leave a question when you can't find the answer and move on, then you will be able to finish them all at the end. I guarantee that. And if you can't, if you're leaving too many questions, then that suggests to me that you're not ready to do it in the time and you need to take longer. Okay, so not leaving a question results in panic, results in anxiety, results in never finding the answer. Okay, and I've mentioned this at the end of that section of questions, at the end of that passage, and at the end of the test itself. Okay, there we go. Right, so that's all I had. So let me come back and see if anybody's got any questions at all about this. Hello, Asif and Diana. Okay, Pat. Okay, brilliant. I do this just on a Thursday in the group, and we have a different topic each time, and it is really a quick run through. I mean, I could show you how to do that with all the questions in reading. And if you want that, then I would suggest you join my IELTS Champions Club. I'll put the link in because we do much more of this in the IELTS Champions Club. So every time somebody has a problem with a reading question, they put it in the club and I go through it. If they want their writing corrected, they put it in the club and I will correct it. I just corrected somebody's writing this morning, a task 1, and I also corrected their plan for task 2. So we do that all the time in IELTS Champions Club. Now, that's not a free club, but the cost is very low. It's $27 for a month. And we have weekly training, monthly training, and then ongoing question and answer training as well. So you get a lot of value there. But my work in this group is just on a Thursday for an hour. And of course, the posts that I put in as well. But if any of you want to talk to me about your IELTS, I'm more than happy. You just send me a direct message, and then we can have a chat about what's going on and where you need support. Everybody who's here today, I've got a little reading process blueprint that I'm going to send you. So thank you for coming, and I will contact you via Messenger to give you that blueprint. It's a PDF about the reading process. I don't see any specific questions, but I'm really excited to see you all here. And I hope to see you next Thursday at our next IELTS Thursday Live. Okay, and any questions, comments, please just put them in the group and I will come and answer them for you. Have a lovely day. Bye, everybody.